And now, our favorite part of the show, the choices of the voices.
Once again, thank you to the wonderful and ever so lovely Miss Button for introducing our favorite portion of the show. Man, you guessed it, 101 episodes in, and it's still the choices of the voices. Where Scotty D asks a question, you give us the answer, and we talk about it a little bit, then we pick at you, but it's all in good fun. And with that being said, Scotty D, what's the question for this week's choices of the voices?
I asked the listeners to tell us about some of their favorite March Madness memories, and I didn't limit to anything specific. I said storylines, famous shot, games, whatever, big moments, and must have had a little static coming through because we didn't have a whole lot of creativity this week, but we did get a couple good answers. And Eddie Cool, let's see what we got here. Run them off for us, if you would.
All right, let's get it. Choices of the voices on the 101. So here we go. We got the Hall of Famer himself for the Sports Bros podcast, Uncle Max, and he says, I watched this game with who was once my father-in-law, which means he ain't no more. Duke versus Kentucky in 1992 for the Eastern Regional with 2.1 seconds left. Grant Hill inbounds the ball to Christian Laettner down the court to achieve a last-second victory against Kentucky. That shot, it was the greatest college basketball game I've ever witnessed. My father-in-law was rooting for Duke, and I was rooting for Kentucky. We had a dollar bet on the game, and he didn't let me live it down for quite some time. That's a pretty good moment.
Maybe a lot of people consider that to be like the greatest college basketball game of all time, at least tournament-wise. I remember I had fallen asleep and missed the entire first half and watched it coming down the stretch. And I liked Kentucky. I was personally a fan of that team, and it kind of made me sick because, like everyone else, I was hating on Christian Laettner. But incredible shot, incredible game.
Yeah, Kentucky had a bunch of like what during the 90s, Kentucky had a lot of their teams were loaded. And I think that was before the whole one and done thing kicked in. Like back in the 90s, like I said, you had Mark Pope, Tony Delk, Jamal Mashburn at one point. Yeah,
Mashburn might have been on that team. I can't swear to it, but he was right around that time.
Yeah, that team was fully loaded, 100%. All right, moving right along, we got Joel Turner. He says, I miss my main man, Jimmy V. And my Wolfpack has not been worth a damn since he was forced out. So he just said he just misses the Wolfpack. Yep, misses the Wolfpack. Yeah, Jimmy V was a coach during the 80s, right?
Yeah, and had that famous scene where he was running around the court trying to find one of his players to hug, and they were all hugging each other. And it was a classic shot.
Running around here like, somebody give me a hug. Somebody give me a hug. I need to hug somebody. Hey, come here. You give me a hug somebody. Yeah, R.I.P. to the legendary, the great Jimmy V. Jim Valvano. All right, Chris Phillips, he said Mario Chalmers hitting that three-pointer to beat Memphis was awesome. Yeah, that's when Mario Chalmers was at the University of Kansas, and they played the Memphis Tigers, which had Derrick Rose in that team, correct?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Calipari was coaching that team.
Well, hell, it don't matter. The wins got vacated any damn way. Yeah, it don't make a damn bit of difference. That's another good one. All right, we got Craig Burns. He said, I'd have to say that the way the Patriots are spending in free agency this year is my most memorable March Madness moment.
Reeks of desperation, the free agency spending. Anyway, back to basketball.
D-line is just
box.
Box.
You knew better than that. I talked about that earlier in the show, and then come to find out you talking about it in the wrong part because it wasn't the question. No, stop it. Do better. Penalty box.
All right. All right, here we go. We got Dave Ramito. He said Pitt versus Vandy, 1988, but he's joking about it though, and I think that's a shot at you, Scotty D. Yeah, jug, jab, jab. He had to get you.
Yeah, they lost. I think Pitt had that was a team that had Jerome Lane and Charles Smith was really good, and I think this was a second round game, and Pitt was leading, and there was a 3-pointer thrown up to tie them at the buzzer, and then Pitt lost in overtime. I'm pretty sure that's the way that went, but that's why I think I responded by saying that was a bad joke. But Dave Romito also was a Pittsburgh guy, so he remembered that one. But I'm pretty sure that's how that went, because I remember my heart being broken back then. And I'm pretty sure that was the game that did it, where Pitt choked on their opportunity with a team that was really good, a team that a lot penciled in. A lot of people penciled them into the Final Four, but never happened.
Yep, that's when Vanderbilt had teams worth a damn. Now, not so much. All right, and that's it for our listeners. It's time to ask the Sports Bros, us, what was our most memorable moments in college basketball, including March Madness. So I'll go first this time. Well, my answer, I remember, B-Live, I don't know if you remember, we were Buffalo Wild Wings. I think the year was 2005. And it was a 2004-2005 national championship. UNC versus the Fighting Illini, the University of Illinois, right? So it was the national championship game, of course, and it was a battle of two number one seeds, right? Throughout the season, Illinois was running through everybody. They ran roughshod through the competition. In the polls, they were ranked number one at 37-1, and North Carolina was number 2 at 32-4. Man, UNC had Raymond Felton, Marvin Williams, Rashad McCants, loaded. That team was fully loaded, and if they didn't win it all, it was all on them. And they were coached by Roy Williams as well too. Illinois had a guy. They had D. Brown, Luther Head, and a guy that went on to be pretty good in the NBA by the name of Darren Williams. Yeah, Darren Williams. It was a slugfest in the beginning. It was going back and forth, and then right before halftime, UNC went on like an 8-0 run to come back to the second half, and Illinois, Luther Head just kept on shooting them threes and try to get them back into the game. But by that point, it was too little, too late, and they win the national championship, University of North Carolina, 75-70. And Sean May was named the Final Four MVP. Yep. So that was a game I was like, this is pretty doggone good. Yes, I was about 4 or 5 beers in, but the game wound up being pretty doggone good. Scotty D, what you got?
Well, a couple of years ago when we started this, you might remember that I mentioned the 1990 run with Loyola Marymount after Hank Gathers had passed away, and they got super hot, and Bo Kimball shooting the left-handed free throw in his honor. One of those teams they beat along the way was Michigan, who was the defending champion, and they ran them off the floor. Ultimately, they would lose to UNLV, who would win the national championship there. That UNLV team was obviously incredible, but there was that memory of Michigan, the defending champion, and the year before Michigan won the national championship, beating Seton Hall in overtime. And I can remember watching that game, and Ramil Robinson got sent to the free throw line with no time left on the clock, down 2. He had to make both free throws to get to overtime, and he did. And they would beat Seton Hall for the national championship. And then one more time with Michigan, I put it on our picture, was the North Carolina-Michigan game where Chris Webber called the timeout. And Chris Webber, I think we talked about this before as well, how he made the best of that really bad situation. He established the timeout foundation and obviously had a great NBA career, but it still always bothers me when he brought that rebound down and everyone says, oh, it looks like he traveled, but why didn't Jalen Rose go get the ball from him right away? That one always bothered me. I was like, he's the point guard. It's the biggest situation possibly right now. You don't have any timeouts. You need your best ball handler to get the ball. Go get it, Jalen, but he didn't. And I know it happened real fast, blah, blah, blah. But those are some super memorable moments to me. And 3 times Michigan was involved in those from the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. B-Live, what you got?
Well, as a lot of people probably know, I grew up a North Carolina basketball fan. I've since converted over to be just Clemson across the board because I caught some flack. But I will still always have a little piece of my heart right here for North Carolina basketball. And Eddie Cool alluded to North Carolina winning it. I'm actually going to allude to one time they lost it in devastating fashion.
Uh-oh.
Guys, this is very recent though. You guys remember the 2016 national championship?
Villanova
against
Wildcats.
Yeah.
Oh, I was sick.
Yeah, that's the other
I
picture I have
sick.
on the
Ooh, I
Facebook
was
page.
sick. I was sick.
I'm just telling you, like, just the up and down. Like, North Carolina was down by 10 points with 4 minutes plus a little over 4 minutes to go, and just North Carolina clawed their way back, and for them to tie the game with 4.7 seconds left. And
on a crazy shot too, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. Oh, off balance, ridiculous, and the whole place lit up. Like it was. Did that really just happen? It was by Marcus Page that tied the game up. But then Villanova, no timeouts, drove the ball down 4.7 seconds ago, and it's not a moving pick, but it was basically where you had a guy trailing right behind the ball handler, and the ball handler handed it right back to him for a deep 3-pointer that just hit bottom, and you saw 0.0 on the clock for Villanova to win it at the buzzer by 3 points. It was just the excitement. It tore a hole in my heart. It just, God, to be so close to fight so hard for it to come down like that. But kudos to Villanova, and that's what makes madness beautiful, gut-wrenching, all at the same time. It's one of those things. You could not have hit a bigger shot. I think the only other bigger shot I've seen, and like it's just through history, was it an alley-oop by Houston, was it? Or not even an alley-oop, but it was the shot was short.
That was the NC State game. That was the
it was
Valvano game.
Mm-hmm. NC State, yep.
So, but yeah, like again, that's a close second to me. But yeah, that Villanova buzzer beater, man. Wow.
There was a shot similar, not the same, not similar as far as the range, but as far as winning a national championship, that it was Keith Smart, I believe, that hit it for Indiana over Syracuse in the 87, I think it was the 87 finals. And that Syracuse team had Ronnie Cycli, and I think Derek Coleman may have been a freshman on the team. Don't quote me on that, but it was a really good Syracuse team. And Indiana had Steve Alford was their go-to guy, and he was incredible. But it was Keith Smart, who I think was a freshman when he hit that game-winning shot to give Indiana and Bobby Knight their last championship. Haven't had one since.
There's also one. Oh my God! It just hit me. It was during the women's national championship. I want to say it was Notre Dame and Mississippi State.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yes. And the shot literally came. It was the last shot of the game. It was a corner three. I was like, oh man, she put it up. Like, I was like literally like hanging on my couch. I don't care about no Mississippi State. I could care less about Notre Dame. But that moment right there, I'm like, wow. And this is a women's college basketball game. So I'm looking. I'm like, oh, she finna throw up a prayer, and it falls and it sinks. And next thing you know, Notre Dame wins the national championship. And I was like, and then just like B-Live said, the madness.
And I think that same girl had hit another buzzer beater earlier in the tournament, right?
Yeah. I want to say it was back-to-back games.
Yeah, I think so too.
I really want to say it was back-to-back games she did that. And incredible. Yeah, I remember that. And I was like, yo.
What's the last name? I think it's Ogunbowale, something like that. But Ogunbowale. Yeah, I was like, are you serious? Yeah, she did it back cold as ice, back-to-back games, baby. Yeah. So I was sitting thinking, I was like, there's another one too. And I just remember plain as day, she hit that 3-pointer, and that was it. All right, gentlemen, with that being said, B-Live gave yours, Scotty D, you gave yours, and I gave you 2 for the price of 1. And with that being said, shout out to Uncle Max, Joel Turner, Chris Phillips, Craig Burns, and David Romito for their participation in this week's Choices of the Voices. Fellas, guess who's out of Facebook jail?
Matty Ice, welcome back.
Yep.
Free Matty Ice. Free Matty Ice. Yes.
And the funny thing
Yes.
about it was, I was looking on Facebook and he commented. I was like, "Oh, he's back! Oh, he's back!" Matty Ice,
Welcome back.
Matty Ice, we waiting for you, baby. We ain't forget about you. We ain't forget about you none whatsoever. So you need to do what some of these, kids do, and make a backup Facebook profile just in case you get suspended like you did. So that way you won't miss nothing. You won't miss nothing. Don't ask me how I know. Just trust me. I know what I'm talking about. And Scotty, with that being said, what's the question for next week's Choices of the Voices?
All right, we're going to go one more time with March Madness here. What March Madness star from the years past were you most disappointed in when it came to their NBA career? Now, sometimes we never even hear these guys, so you get to the Final Four, and you think, man, that guy's going to be a great NBA player. Actually, I'll give you an example of one that went the opposite way. In 2003, as a big Pitt fan, Pitt had kind of had a resurgence in their program and run into Marquette and a young guy who I'd never heard of by the name of Dwayne Wade. And Dwayne Wade just cooked Pitt that night. He had 20 points in the second half and cooked them, and obviously went on to a Hall of Fame career. But that doesn't always work out that way. Sometimes you have a Ramil Robinson who projects you, hits your free throws, takes you to the national championship, then loses to Loyola Marymount and has a disappointing NBA career. So we're looking for situations like that. Someone that catches your eye during the March Madness tournament and you think, man, this person's going to be really good. This is going to be an awesome NBA player. And then fizzles. So give us one of those. Come up with somebody for that. Get creative. Let's hear what you got here. That's our topic next week, guys, for Choices of the Voices.
All right. And with that being said, there's been another edition of the Choices of the Voices.